Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. He did not know what had made him pour out this stream of rubbish.
Who would win in a fight between you and TJ?
Jesus, he's a big guy, but oh my God, he just did a video where he had his shirt off. Hairy,
I saw that. That's the
oh
first one of
God.
his I've seen in ages.
Yeah, just boobs out. He had a terrible take. What was he talking about? It was like,
Oh yeah, everyone disagreed with him.
we should eliminate borders.
That was it. Yeah.
I mean, like, unironically, he's just going, like,
Uh-huh.
it was the most childlike take. And he's like, if I want to go to Mexico, I should just walk into Mexico. And
Yeah.
the the implication was not just to visit. He's not talking about like everyone gets tourism visas. He's talking about just walk in, live, run a business, operate, use the social services, I guess. Is that part of it, TJ? Like, who's paying for all this? Like, what are the legal ramifications of this?
But they never think of that. You know, I had
they
a
don't
very
care.
good friend. I had a very good friend who is, you know, he's pretty far left. And, you know, he would always say that sort of thing, like, why are you proud of being British? And I'd be like, well, you know, like we did pretty well in the history of the world. And, you know, we did some bad stuff, but I think overall we did a lot more good than bad. And, you know, for an island the size of Florida and a half, you know, I thought we did all right. And he's like, but you didn't do any of that. I'm like, yeah, but my family goes back 1,100 years. And, you know, I'm related to the guy that killed Thomas à Becket on the steps of the Canterbury Cathedral. And I don't know, you know, I just kind of feel like that. And he was like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, you just happen to be born on this rock. And I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, are you proud of your parents? And he was like, well, sometimes. I'm like, well, there you go. It's the same thing.
Well, yeah, and I've heard this argument. I mean, really, it's vile, this whole self-hatred. It's all very weak. But really, it might be a failure of language, because if you say I'm proud of my heritage,
Yeah.
you're not saying I personally feel like I have ownership or take credit for it, but you are standing on the shoulders of giants who have accomplished a lot, have moved heaven and earth, built societies, fought wars, etc. And they're standing on the shoulders of other giants, and you're at the tail end of that going, fuck this pyramid of giants.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, no, I'm not going to say that. It's respect. I respect and honor.
Exactly.
And this is why I call dignity. And this is why I'm talking about white dignity.
Yeah.
And having pride. Dignity means honor and respect. And you should have that. And it should be your default setting, but apparently for some of the younger generations, they not only do they not have that, they go the opposite direction. They say, fuck my heritage.
Yeah.
Fuck America. Fuck white people. Like, okay, if that's your position, go for it. But it's, you know, you're not everyone's going to sign up for that.
Yeah, it's just incorrect. And also the other thing is, you know, I'm proud of my son. You know, he does things daily that make me proud. That doesn't mean I dislike every other child. I could be proud of other kids as well. Like, I'm proud of my friends. You know, it's not about like only the UK for me or the UK and America for you. Yeah, it could be plenty of different ones, but these are just the specific ones I think about. Like, am I proud of what India has done for itself? Like, yeah, I am. But do I think about it every day? No. But it doesn't mean I'm not proud of other places.
Exactly. And I've heard people discuss the moral, not dilemma, but just the question of, why do you love your kids more than other kids? Why is that acceptable? Like, why are you spending your resources on just this one child? Why? Because it's from your biology, and yet you have extra money. Why aren't you dedicating that money to some starving kid in Africa? And, you know, this is a very natural thing. It's a very biological thing. It's easy to rationalize, and it comes intuitively. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with having an affinity for your culture, your country. I think the more you travel, the more you see the world, the less nationalistic you get, because it's like, why plant your flag in I'm an American, you know, and I'm going to talk about being an American, and you're not American, you're Canadian, and you're Australian, and you're Danish. It's like, it becomes just totally absurd. And there's just more interesting things to focus on. And also, it's very selfish. It's very self-serving. Like, if I'm at Cirque du Soleil, you know, incredible circus based in Vegas now, multiple different versions of it. I love it. And some Chinese some Chinese acrobat comes out and just completely wows me, am I going to sit there and go, yeah, she's all right, but I have no affiliation with China, so I'm not really going to hype her up, because how does this reflect well on me? It's like,
Yeah.
I guess I could say, well, England was in China, and so she might have benefited from some colonial. I mean,
Yeah.
basically the whole thing is a dick stroking session in disguise, and people need to just call that out.
So yeah, but that's interesting then. So where do you stand on it? Because I kind of feel like you're half you do respect your background, but then you're also saying that it's a dick stroking contest.
Well, yeah, you can have both. It's
I
not
agree.
one or the other. You should have respect and honor the culture you come from. I mean, it has given you a lot, so
Mhm.
you can't take any of that for granted. And not to mention just the straight up bloodshed. Like, I have family members that died in all the wars for England,
Yeah.
and America that's had its share of wars. I mean, those things still matter. Like, for
Mhm.
example, where's the gratitude of Black America for white America for dying in the Civil War? Have we ever once heard them say a single thing about that? They, imagine some Black Lives Matter rally. They go, hey, can we have a moment of silence for the 300,000 Union soldiers who died, or 500,000? I think that number has actually risen. They figured out that more of them died. And they died to free our ancestors. It's not a minor thing. If 500,000 British people went and died for some cause, you think you could get a thank you note. It hasn't
Tell the
been that
French that.
long. What? You died for the French? Oh, World War II.
Well, I mean, World War One and Two, we went into both of those wars in theory to kind of give a bit of protection to the old French, and
Yeah,
they still hate us for that. Not
my
sure why.
my great uncle Jeffrey Tracey, he died in the trenches in World War One,
There you go.
fighting for Great Britain. So yeah, I mean, it's
Rest in peace, Jeffrey.
exactly.
God save the Queen.
And how do you feel about the Queen's husband passing on?
Um, I would take a bullet for the Queen. I would. I know you probably think that's a little bit ridiculous, but I just think that she's friggin' amazing. I think that she's done so much good, basically, from the day she was born. But I won't go on because I know a lot of people just don't really understand that. With regards to Philip, I think that he was a funny guy. I think that he was a gentleman of his times. I think he had a very funny sense of humor, and I'm sure he was a great husband to her. Uh, I didn't know him, or I don't know her, but obviously I never really knew that much about him, so it was sad. I think mostly I just felt sad for the Queen
Do you feel
because
that the recent bullshittery going on with the mulatto princess?
Jesus,
Now
mulatto.
didn't they moved away? They don't live in England, correct? And they
Yeah,
don't
oh
even
yeah.
want to
So
play a
so
part in the royal family. Is that not true?
so I stopped following it a little bit because I was just basically I just felt sick about the whole thing. But I, from what I understand, obviously they got together. Um, she said that she didn't realize that she would be the target of media and paparazzi.
Please.
And so she was like, and because of that, we're leaving the country. And everybody was like, oh, well, hold on. What about Harry? And then Harry was like, yes, I agree. So I'm going with her. Off they went to Canada. And we were like, oh, okay, fair enough. They are in the middle of nowhere now. So at least they're standing by their word.
Huh.
Literally 5 weeks later, they moved to friggin' LA.
Oh God,
So it was so horrendous living here,
that's ridiculous.
they had to get away from the paparazzi by moving to LA and
Oh,
signing a reality TV show deal
oh
and
my.
then signing a million, way more than a million. They said it was $1 million deal for the show that they did with Oprah, but I'm sure it was more. So
Scandalous.
yeah, and in that, Harry kind of because Harry's sort of been doing this really embarrassing thing where he's been coming out and saying things like white people the world was made for white people by white people, and
Jesus.
like my mum said, I'm sure the Chinese would have a word to say about that because
Yeah.
they've been around for 5,000 years. um and so he has been saying pretty cringy things like that. And then I believe that when he was on the show, he said something along the lines of that someone had made a racial joke, but that he didn't find it funny, or it was incredibly hurtful and blah, blah, blah. But then apparently after the show, he went up to Oprah and he said, could you just make it clear that it's not my brother, father, mother, my grandmother, or grandfather? And everyone was like, okay. So it was basically no one in the family.
God.
And so then the Queen was like, not having this. I'm taking back your titles. And then recently something else happened, but I don't know what it was because I just can't bear to watch it anymore.
But
And then she took away his money as well.
So they have been officially stripped of their titles.
I think they've been stripped of like 90% of what they had. Like they might have something loosely. But the other thing is, apparently she told one of her friends, I mean, Jesus, who knows the truth? But apparently she told one of her friends that she thought that she would get the title princess. But with Harry not being first in line to the throne, she wouldn't. She'd get the title duchess, not princess. And so when she found that out, that was when she decided. That was the point that she decided that there was too much media in this country, and that she needed to leave.
It's incredible. Wow.
So yeah, it's.
I mean, this puts to shame any of the scandals with Princess Diana, and
Big time.
Yeah. So, well, that's
she always
disturbing.
kept it fairly quiet. You know, she was good at keeping things, and who knows whether that's the better thing. But Diana was always good at whatever difficulties she faced. Most of the time, it was kept out of the media and so on and so forth. Whereas with Harry and Meghan Markle, you know, it's like everything is always in the media.
I mean, I am interested in the fact that you said you'd take a bullet for the Queen. I mean, how far does this fantasy go? You jump in front of a bullet, save her life. She leans down, gives you an open mouth kiss. Paparazzi snapping pics.
Anything except a hollow point. I'm not taking a hollow point for the
And
Queen.
where would you take it? You take it in like the ass or the thigh, something like that.
Anywhere that's not going to leave me permanently damaged.
I'm pretty sure bullets do that, but
yeah,
man,
I don't know. They tell people to shoot you in the leg. They tell police officers to shoot people in the legs nowadays.
Oh, we just shot a guy in the leg out in Germany. Somali guy, skinny dude, barefoot, and
that was a good aim.
Yeah, exactly. You hit a Somali in a leg. I mean, Jesus, marksman, sniper division.
Yeah.
He stabbed to death 3 women for no reason in the streets of a small town in Germany, and then a mob of Germans cornered him. The cops came, shot him in the leg, and he's in custody. But yeah, pretty messed up stuff.
That's crazy.
I imagine you've never fired a gun though in your life. Is that true?
No, I have. I don't know what I can say online, but I have several guns.
Oh, interesting.
It's not illegal here. You just have to have a license.
And I imagine it's difficult to get those.
It's not difficult to get them, but if you've done something stupid in your life, then you're going to struggle to get some. And, you know, you could obviously come across some really bad luck, and like whoever's in charge of giving that stamp has had a bad day, or they don't like the sound of your name or something, and they'll just be like, no, declined.
And you've never felt the urge to go and get the gun out? You heard some noise in the house, home invasion?
No, because I'm quite big, and like because in this country not many people have guns. Like you know that the chance of somebody breaking into your house with a gun is like 0.01%.
Right, but what if he has a knife?
Then I hope he's got a longer reach than someone that's 6'4". But like, would I? I mean, I guess like I actually have sadly had to fight a guy with a knife before, and the same guy also had a pair of shears. And I say it was me. It was actually me and a group of my friends. We were at a party, and this guy came in. It turned out later that he was on a couple of different drugs. Jockey, because I live near a very big racing park, Newmarket. And
the guy was a jockey?
The guy was a jockey.
Well, he's small as hell.
Yeah. But dude, it turned out he was kind of coked up and a bit drunk and stuff. He just walked into the party on it by himself. And then he said to a really good friend of mine, it was a fancy dress Halloween party, and he said to a friend of mine who had a little plastic cowboy gun on his belt, and he goes, he was Irish. He goes, "Do you think it's funny carrying a piece on your belt like that?" And my friend goes, "It's clearly a water pistol, mate." And he was like, "You think that's funny, do you?" And he just started getting more and more aggro. And my mate's like, "Listen, it's a blue and fluorescent orange water pistol. What do you want me to do?"
Mm.
So then my friend actually had the house, came and threw him out with a couple of our friends. And then the next week we knew, he came back in with a knife. And there was a kind of crazy moment where, like, I think I was stood by the DJ decks. Not that I can DJ at all, but just may as well make it look like I can. And I just kind of saw this glint as he burst through the front door with a massive carving knife. And I'm not going to take the credit. Like, it was a couple of friends of mine, 2 or 3 of them, that were first just like bang, and they just swarmed him. And like, as I was walking over there or trotting over there, I was even thinking like, oh, I hope I don't get stabbed.
Jesus,
Yeah.
it's
And
so
then
wild. The reality of
kicked,
knife fighting. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we kicked him out, and
Mhm.
then he came back in later on with a set of hedge clippers,
Whoa, part
but he
3.
couldn't do anything with those. Interesting choice of weapon.
Yeah, I mean, it could get the
Shears.
job done. You gotta be careful with
You're
that.
gonna have to make sure they're sharp though.
Yeah,
Pretty
I,
accurate as well.
I mean,
Mind you, at 5'3", I was pretty frightened of those shears.
guy with a butter knife is a threat. I mean, you gotta
Yeah.
be ready. But the situation with knives in England, I see some horrific videos. Not to mention
Oh,
acid attacks, but I mean, just scandalous stuff. We're stabbing women. Just people are. Well, first of all, they're stabbing people who don't have knives. So the whole thing is, it's not really justifiable, and it's all cowardly bullshit. But it does
yeah.
feel like you're living in the 19th century Japan, where it's like samurai culture, where blades matter. And it's
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
old school.
I'm sure that that it's mostly in London and Manchester. There
Not,
is obviously, if
not Birmingham.
I was just gonna say, there is obviously also some in Birmingham and
Yeah.
Nottingham and Liverpool. I'm starting to
So
list a lot
basically,
of places.
every English
Yeah,
city.
yeah. But like, if you're living in a like near a fairly small city like Cambridge or
Mm.
Southampton, you're not going to come across loads of people swarming around you with knives all the time. But I have to say, I differ to you with regards to gun rights. Like, I do believe that it's important to have some form of access to guns, and not even just for men, and not necessarily for that kind of thing about fending off a corrupt government, but just, I think that women, like, if you're 5'2", like, I look at myself sometimes and think, God, I wouldn't want to fight him, not because I'm hard, but just because I'm big. It takes a lot of effort to fight someone that's tall and broad, and I think, like, imagine if you were a 5'2" woman
Yeah.
and some massive dude decides to do something horrendous to you. Like, I think they should. Why can't they have? Because obviously we can't have pistols here unless you have a super duper license. It's just rifles and shotguns. But why can't that woman just have a little 22 Derringer or something?
Well, I mean, she can have other forms of defense, tasers and pepper spray and whatnot. And
Yeah, they're illegal.
are they?
Yeah, you can't have pepper spray or bloody. It's ridiculous, man.
Really?
It's so over the top. Once they take, I hate to do this because I know you'll disagree with me deep down.
Mhm.
But once they take, first of all, it's not, they don't gently take your guns. Sometimes people go, oh, they do this first. No, literally, we woke up one day in 1997 and Tony Blair was like, I'm taking your guns. There's a mandatory give back. It wasn't even a buyback. And everybody just had to give their guns back. Um, so that's one thing. And
Well,
yeah,
they did
sorry,
that
Chris.
recently in New Zealand with, or Australia did it a few years back.
That's
I'm
right.
not
Yeah,
I'm not sure how mandatory that was, but they managed to clear out a lot of guns.
they
But
did.
it's interesting. I mean, we're talking about the knife violence in England, and if you guys had the guns that America had, the problems
Absolutely.
would be 100-fold. I mean,
Absolutely. You're right.
so what I'm saying, I would be more receptive to the argument of I need a gun because everyone else has a gun. But if most people in England, like you already said, the chances of a guy breaking in with a gun are very small.
Yeah.
I think that's to England's credit that they've kept this thing down. You
Yeah.
know,
I mean, it's a really good point, and I completely agree with you. And that's why I think that this topic is so, I'm not going to use the word complex, let's say. Neil
Sure.
Ansberg. It's an incredibly complex thing, but I certainly think that a country like America, because they already have a big gun culture, like, don't get rid of it. Like, because you'll never get it back. You will never get it back. Like, the UK is never going to get, we're never going to get our pistols back. We sell, we have pump action shotguns, but you can only use one shell. I can get 3 shells in one of my crack guns. So, like, why would I have a pump action with one shell? Bang! Oh, click.
Well, what I don't understand is, America is hundreds of years too late to try to turn back the clock, and you can't have disarmament from just one side while the criminals and everyone else already has guns. I mean, it's so ludicrous. So, gun control in America is not. It's a different discussion. It's not.
Yes.
It's how can we improve things. It's not how can we just get rid of guns, because you can't do that. That's like saying, let's get rid of premarital sex or something. It's just a losing battle at that point.
Yeah.
So, but the issue that I find crazy is that a lot of people don't know the reality of violence in other countries, which have different policies on guns. And I've lived in many of them, and it's just way better. And so, on a theoretical basis, like if you say, would you rather have the gun violence of Japan or America? You'll get Republicans and people, they'll hesitate. They'll be like, I'm not actually sure on that. So wait, you're telling me thousands of gun deaths, not to mention the suicide crap, versus like a handful, and you don't see the difference there. It's really a weird thing that people put up these blockades where they're like, no, I want my gun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of them would just admit that, look, just don't come for my gun, and I'll start making crappy arguments. That's a fair point.
Yeah, but the point is, would you rather live in a place where everyone had a gun or no one had a gun? And to me, that's an odd, that's the hesitation, and that's a guy from England hesitating on that.
Yeah,
that's what's so crazy.
So take my advice.
Right. So let me ask you this: would you rather live in?
But can I just
the guns? Yes.
Can I just add? It's not that I'm not. Maybe we're thinking about it slightly differently. When you say, "Would you rather live somewhere where everyone or no one?" What I'm thinking is, I just like machines and guns and target shooting, and obviously, so it's not so much a self-defense only.
Okay, well then, not you, but any person, like your best friend. Would you rather they live in a gun culture where gun violence is a regular occurrence, or a place where it isn't?
Well, obviously, yeah, I would rather they live somewhere there is no violence.
No, but gun violence specifically, this is the mother of all violent instruments that we've created. So I just don't understand. Like, to me, it's such a no-brainer.
It is a no-brainer, but there's so much more complexity to it than just.
Yeah, but not on that issue. On that question, it's pretty cut and dry.
Well, yeah, no, and I agree.
Right.
I agree.
The added complexity is we're not starting at the dawn of time. History is taking place, and gun cultures and laws and literal guns are in the hands of people, and that is the next place to talk about, which is who is doing this.
Yeah.
And we know who's doing it, and it's demographics. So it's not the cities you listed off in England that are have problems. These are not white majority places, or at least the parts of them that are having the violence are not white majority.
No, and the actual thing that I was going to say is, if you could disagree with me with me on this, but I did see one interesting statistic recently, because I was always the guy years ago that I thought I was trying to be nice and helpful, but obviously I didn't realize how strong the gun thing was at the time in America. And I was saying, look, we literally have like 400 murders a year, and our population is 70 million. You've got 20,000 murders a year, and your population is only 5 times bigger at the time. Now it's obviously 6 times. Well, no, it'd be 5 times, wouldn't it? So you would have to have 2,000 murders to have the same level as us, and you have 20,000. But I did see a couple of interesting things recently, or over the last couple of years, where it said if you remove the gang violence, like Chicago, LA, and like places where they're just blasted fools for no reason, that the levels of murder in America are actually not that far off the UK.
Okay, right. I mean, and that is a place to discuss things. I mean, you could also bring up Switzerland, for example,
Yeah.
which has a large gun ownership rate because everyone serves in the military, and
Yeah.
they just have a way of
Everybody
setting that
gets
up.
a gun. Don't
But
they, at 18?
it's regulated, and it's also filled with functional, moral, non-criminal people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a shortcut of
Yes.
saying
Yeah.
that is that there's a lot of white people in Switzerland. Um, I mean, obviously, not all white people are moral and non-criminal, and for those that partake in that, we condemn them and chuck them in jail. But
Yeah.
if you go to Switzerland, you notice a huge percentage of people that are high-level, functional, grounded human beings,
Yeah.
and so therefore, them owning guns is not the problem of people who are morally ludicrous, totally criminal in nature, and are
Yeah.
using these guns for nefarious purposes. I mean, that's a massive difference.
Yeah.
So it's
100%.
not just about the guns. It's not just about gun ownership. There's other aspects to this, and I'd be the first
Yeah.
to acknowledge that.
Absolutely. And we're I think what's going on in London has kind of shown the ridiculousness of being too soft about, like racism, not racism, but racial profiling, because we used to have about 400 murders a year. 450 was a bad year. We're
And
now up at like 1050, like,
oh Jesus,
1100.
well,
And,
what's the name of the mayor of London? Khan? What's his name?
oh God, Sadiq
Sadiq.
Khan.
Right. I was thinking of Amir Khan, the
Yeah,
boxer.
boxer. Good
Yeah.
boxer. Well, until he got floored by,
Oh,
who did he get floored by? Cavello?
well, Canelo
Canelo?
knocked him out. Yeah, but I think he was knocked out by another dude. I saw. Yeah, he didn't have the greatest chin, uh,
He was a good boxer though, but he just had a glass chin.
but it's so weird, like that. The Pakistani Cockney British guy. It's such a weird combo because he has this bravado of like, just some white street thug, but he'll be in like Speaker's Corner talking about Islam and Muhammad, but with the attitude of a Cockney Brit, and it's like,
Yeah,
what? Such
it's
a
very
weird.
strange.
It is.
Do you remember? Oh, that was Amir Khan?
Amir Khan, yeah.
Yeah, and who was the old guy that was amazing? Also Pakistani Brit. Oh God, why can I not
Boxer.
remember his name? Yeah, boxing. Yeah, yeah, and he was like a light. I think he was a.
Oh, you're talking about Prince
Oh,
Nazim.
yes, Nassim Hamid.
Yeah, yeah.
I watched a
He was
highlight
awesome.
reel of his the other day, and I'd forgotten how friggin' quick he was.
Oh, he's so unorthodox
God.
and cocky though. Like, I mean, just a showman.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
love
remember
Prince Nazim.
he was amazing, like
Hmm.
so fast. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I love boxing
So
too.
yeah, I know, yeah. And UFC, I think
Uh
me
huh.
and Dan are looking forward to the fight this weekend. Obviously, you've
Oh
got
hell yeah,
Poirier McGregor 3,
ready. Is
and
that this
we have,
weekend? Wow, shit.
I think it is this weekend, and then we have is it Burns?
Gilbert Burns versus who?
I don't know who it's against.
Maybe Masvidal or somebody like that. Maybe.
Let's have a quick look. I'm not sure Masvidal will be fighting that quickly. Also, I was going to talk to you about the culture, which we have obviously dipped into.
Okay.
Um, we're sort of told, if you say, I'm not sure that a lot of African American culture is necessarily a good influence on some young people.
That's a very polite way of saying something that's rather obvious, but go ahead.
Well, I thought that, but then you're sort of told, don't be so bloody ridiculous, just racist. Recently at the Black Entertainment Awards, we saw, I believe the artist is known as DaBaby,
Mm,
and I believe he has already shot and killed one man in his life.
nice.
There were some women shaking their booties to a baby, to an actual baby.
Nice.
And there were some men kissing each other dressed up as Egyptian
Oh, right.
pharaohs.
Right. That's super risque. I mean, it's so desperate. Like the idea that you're going to shock us by being gay.
Yeah.
It's just gross. I mean, not the gay part, just the part that they think they're special, and like
Yeah.
their brand is their sexuality. It's like, I mean, it was equally gross when the big hair metal groups were parading their heterosexuality around and sort of like, hey, here's a hot chick, and now listen to this guitar riff, and it's like,
Yeah.
she's my
But yeah,
cherry pie. Go ahead.
I really miss those days though now. Jeez. It was a different time. So the UFC roster for this weekend
Mhm.
is Dustin Poirier McGregor 3. That should be a really great one. I think Poirier is going to take that, you know.
He's tough, man. He is tough.
I just think that he's like in his peak, and McGregor's maybe a couple of years, 3 years out of his peak.
And also out of practice, and also satiated with the hundreds of millions that he has. I mean,
Yeah, the hunger
oh yeah.
is that there. So we have Gilbert Burns. Oh, I didn't. Oh, this is going to be amazing. Sorry, we've just had a minor orgasm. Wonder Boy.
Wonder Boy versus Gilbert Burns.
Yeah, their
I,
records. Wonder Boy
what,
16-4-1. Gilbert Burns 19-4-0.
well, I think Wonder Boy has strung together a couple wins, but Burns is really solid. And again, Gilbert Burns' ground game. You know, Wonder Boy has good takedown defense, but I mean,
He's going to need it.
yeah, he's going to be shoved up against the fence, and he's not going to. Gilbert Burns is not stupid enough to just let Wonder Boy do his karate seminar.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. You got to give it to Steve though. Wonder Boy, to be able to go that long with that successful a career, and he was robbed once in England, in my opinion, against Darren Till.
oh yeah.
So it shouldn't really be 16-4. It should be 17-3. To be 17-3
Well,
off
he was robbed
karate.
against Tyrone Woodley. I mean, those fights were boring fights, but he barely lost both of those fights.
Yeah. So
And
you could be looking at a 19-1 guy from karate.
well, if he beats Gilbert Burns, he's definitely on the radar and title contention. But Gilbert Burns has huge power too. Like he
Oh, I
loves
know.
striking, so he's not just some
Absolutely.
jiu-jitsu wrestling guy. He's throwing bombs and he's knocking people out. So and we know that
Yeah.
what's his name, Wonder Boy, doesn't have the best chin ever. I mean, he could be cracked.
Yeah, he could definitely be stunned. I don't know how easy. Well, yeah.
You know, it's funny though because that card features one of the best trash talkers in the history of the sport, Conor McGregor, and one of the worst, which is Wonder Boy, because he comes out with that
Yeah.
virgin Christian energy, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Well,
Yeah.
I think the man's a nincompoop." You know, it's just like, oh Jesus,
I just want to have a good time, guys.
right?
Yeah. So we have. Sorry.
Go ahead. What do we got?
Okay. So we have Tai Tuivasa
Oh yeah,
versus
the big
the
fat Samoan or the
yep,
Maori, whatever.
yep, the big Maori guy. Is he Australian or
Yeah, I mean,
American?
he claims Aboriginal descent. He comes out with that flag, but
Right,
yeah,
right.
he is Australian, I think.
But he's basically an Australian. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
fed and educated by the Australian government. Um, and then we have him versus the ex-NFL player Gregory Hardy.
Big Hardy. Oh, right, the wife beater.
Purportedly, yes.
Allegedly, right?
Allegedly. I think that'll be interesting because obviously Greg's tall and he has that, like me, that kind of tall man that's got a bit too much weight build. What do they say? Built like a bag of milk?
Well, he's fat, but he also has muscle, and
Absolutely.
yeah, he's not to be trifled with. He had a couple tough losses, or at least one in the UFC, but
Yeah.
he's rebounded. He's a young guy, and he's tough as shit.
Yeah. Oh, that's quite cool. Sugar Sean O'Malley
Yeah, he's back.
versus an unknown to me anyway, Chris Moutinho.
I do not know that.
No,
Yeah.
I don't. And then who cares about the women?
Oh, I do. I like
I'm
working.
joking.
Okay.
So it's Irene Aldana
Uh-huh.
versus Yana Kunitskaya.
Oh yeah, Yana, she's tough. That could be fun. Always rooting for the north-south choke, the 69 position in those fights. But
Yeah, lovely.
yeah, now you got me hype. What day is it today? It's Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday,
All
and this
right.
is yeah, dude, it is this weekend.
Well, I'm gonna watch all the behind-the-scenes stuff and get ready. What else you got? Hit me with more questions.
Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. He did not know what had made him pour out this stream of rubbish